Hi, everyone. This is Irit Ezips, and welcome to my YouTube channel and podcast all about customer success, best practices, tactical advice, and anything else that you might need in order to excel in increasing your net retention rate, your customer experience, as well as product adoption and everything in between. And today I have Keith Mattis, who is the product specialist at Rapid7 that helps the customer success and services team track and make sure that they're accountable for the customer experience and the promises they make to the customers. And also vice versa, allows enough data to be tracked in their customer success solution to ensure that customers are actually held accountable to get the experience that they need. Are they giving them the resources? Are they engaged in the manner that they need them to be in order to produce the best results for them? And so, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Sometimes when you have a lot of customers and a lot of service offerings, which most companies end up having at some point, it actually gets a little wild to ensure a customer experience is consistent and that we keep promises that we give our customers. It doesn't just depend on the customer success manager. It depends on a lot of different teams. First and foremost, your company has multiple products and they have multiple service offerings. And then even with each one, they might have different types of packages that a customer can opt into. And if they did, and this one, like the advanced, has more value offerings, obviously, more resources that should be dedicated, like an assigned customer advisor, but there's activities that they should be able to receive, like a monthly security review meeting. And so the case here is that we have multiple service offerings based on different products and different things that the customer would like to achieve. And within that, there's at least two options that a customer can opt into in order to have some degree of control around how much engagement do they want to have from their partner, Rapid7. How long have you had these different offerings?
So I'd say we've had that for quite some time. Within our instance of our CS tool, we've certainly started off with just focus on our CS org. But as we've engaged with other teams, they've said, whoa, this could be very beneficial to us to have this visibility, this interactivity. So we brought in our technical account managers, we brought on our onboarding team, we brought on some pre-sales folks and some other different processes that are helping with this. So it's bringing folks together. I mean, the reason it's been growing in different use cases is as more people are using it.
What it sounds like in terms of the history of it all, you installed your customer success solution. The initial use case was just help the customer success managers to get visibility to what's going on with the customer, develop a customer 360, track their own activities with the customer. And obviously, like I said, in order to impact the customer experience, everybody that's customer facing should actually own and be held accountable to deliver the expected experience for the customer and hold accountable for delivering whatever we promised them. In your case, the promises are very clear. They're on your website. It's very clear what they should be getting. What were some of the challenges that the customer success managers were having without this transparency as to say, well, do other teams actually deliver on these promises?
Initially, it was because our platform only housed CS folks. There was a lack of visibility. How do we get that information democratized out to the rest of the organization so that our onboarding team has a better idea what's going on? Our sales team can see what we're converting and what the health of the account is. So all of these things had to evolve naturally as we went through our instance. So going back to before, adding more teams, that changes the processes where we go from a pre-sales status to an onboarding status to a nearly mature status. And we're bringing things through there completely. And also to get more teams hands-on to make sure that the collaboration's there. And then we move forward with understanding the right engagement at the right time. And the one really, really cool thing that I think most people are sometimes afraid of is that as you add more complexity to your engagement and you add more users into your system, we wanted that intentional friction between the teams. We wanted there to be overlap in these processes because that's where we can easily identify the efficiency gains, where we can build out a playbook or something that makes more sense and the handoffs are much smoother. The customer experience doesn't have any redundancy as far as meetings or overblown interactions that, hey, we just met with this person, but now I'm meeting with another stakeholder. Why are we delivering the same content? Why can't we get everyone in the same room? Or why can't we identify stakeholders more efficiently? So that was a really cool approach. end result of this exercise.
You started off just tracking the activities of the CSM. Did the CSMs ask, well, we need to know who's delivering what, or did the other teams approach you to say, hey, this is cool, we actually want to see? And like, who started this?
Oh, so the CS team, just to get folks using the system, the engagement model was put in place where it was like, okay, you're tier one, you have to make a certain number of engagements in a certain amount of days. And there were spiffs, there were rewards based off of it. There was some compensation tied to it. It was to get folks to have an initial adoption of the tool and really understand how it worked. So entering the timeline activities, documenting the work, and then also understanding how it impacts their dashboards, how it impacts other things was really sort of paramount in this installation. Evolving that, other teams said, hey, can we do this at a tier 4 level where we don't have so much hands-on? Can we automate certain things as a result of this engagement model? And then from there, we had international interest. And how can we automate our partner relationships and overseas engagement? And it's just evolving. And we've taken one basic engagement approach, and then we've built it out even further. Now that we have one engagement model for the CS folks, we now have another engagement model for just our services folks, and it's completely different. Again, there's cadence-based, and then there's a rolling volume-based. We have both of them running at the same time. It's kind of interesting.
So for the services teams, you track for cadence, you track for volume. Tell me about the difference, like in thinking about this. You tracking how many of these does each agent do, or for a specific customer, how many of them are being done? Like, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so for our services folks, the 2 package levels, that would be translated into sort of like a monthly versus a quarterly check-in. So folks that are higher level are going to get the more frequent monthly check-in. Those that are a lower level are going to get the quarterly check-in. And that's just allocation of time, and that helps us sort of allocate our resources internally better as well. The volume-based one, there is cadence tied into it, but it's strictly tied to 100 days, 3 months, a quarter. But when we do that, we're looking for specific types of activities that are logged by specific individuals, and it has to be based on tier, and that's volume per 100 days. So a tier 1 might require 6 engagements, a tier 2 might require 3, and so on, every 100 days. And as soon as they fall under that number of engagements tallied each day and refreshed each day, they'll fall out of their engagement model. And then there'll be a trigger on the account that says, are they engaged or not? True, false. What's their percentage engaged? Oh, they're 90% engaged, so they're false. They're not fully engaged. And now we can look at a pie chart of my book of business and see that 20%, hopefully less, is not engaged. And I'm doing a really good job of staying apart. And then the managers review this type of information and they say, oh, Arit, I see that you're doing great this quarter. You're 95% engaged with 2 weeks left. Let's look at those 3 customers that maybe you haven't talked to yet. Did they just fall out of engagement? Were they tier 1 and they were 30 days ago and it's day 32 or whatever it is? It also incites a lot of discussion, partnering with the managers, and it gives them a good understanding of like what users are on top of things and all the different behaviors they have.
Okay, so it sounds like what you were able to do is obviously increase the customer experience, but also do better resource allocation and drive internal accountability.
Correct. Yeah.
Allow managers to track performance. So performance review is now data-driven versus maybe like what I'm thinking this other guy is doing, yes or no.
Yeah, there's a lot of aspects to how they value and judge or grade our CS folks. But when it comes to engagement, it's pretty cut and dry at this point. And the folks that master and understand the model and the processes, and they establish that pattern and the habits, it's mostly just instilling good habits in the users, good use of the tool, and just sort of understanding like, look, you do want to talk to the customer. When you do, again, that intentional friction that we had before, now that we have more teams in our tool, we have more collaborative meetings. That means less meetings for our internal folks, less meetings for our customer, more focus, more collaboration, more efficiency, and it just frees up time to do, I guess, more.
You increased efficiency because now as a team manager, if I want to know what's going on, I could just open your customer success solution and see the dashboards and what's going on. And then if I see a trend that I don't like, or I want to give praise, I can actually reach out to the person. Whereas before, they actually had to have one-on-one meetings more frequently to just understand what's going on.
100%. And now there's just very automated, hey, I check in with my team. or I check in with my manager if I'm going the other way. And yeah, here's my dashboard and here's my manager dashboard. So we have different slices and dices of all different data. It's pretty awesome to watch and see it evolve and get the different ideas from different folks about engagement or what should qualify or what shouldn't and stuff like that.
When you're building a customer success initiative or you're defining your service packages, you want to make sure that you track 3 types of metrics: behavioral, which sounds like a lot of like tracking the actual activities, is very behavioral. Okay, we committed to these type of activities. This is what we're going to actually do. And then we also want to gauge for leading indicators. Leading indicators would be, if I do these, do I see an increase in CSAT, in NPS, maybe even employee attrition? Not a lot of people think about that, but actually when I know what I need to do and I have clear guidance, probably attrition will go down. So these are examples of leading indicators. Do you, outside of the activities that you're tracking, that you committed to clients, the cadence, the volume, the monthly or quarterly check-ins, and to overall engagement level, how do you track whether or not how we're doing it is actually favorably impacting the client's experience and the outcomes that they achieve?
The fact that we have captured this within Gainsight as a mechanism for, I think, over like 2.5, 3 years now, we're able to now start to overlay this as a dimension onto our data, whether it's renewal conversion rates. On our timeline activities, we have a customer sentiment value that the CSM or the author will enter at the end of every interaction. And that helps feed BI values that contribute to customer health. We have centralized NPS responses from all of our systems, including Gainsight and other systems that we use in our tech stack. And we aggregate all our NPS. And now that we're starting to feed this engagement data back to the business through our BI team and other mechanisms, they're now able to say very easily over the last 3 years, they can track, did this engagement model help? Did being tier 1 and having a higher level engagement track well against NPS? What about stakeholder or role specific NPS as it pertains to the account? Were the tech people happy or were the execs happy? And the tech people were disgruntled because the tool wasn't doing what it's supposed to, but it was perceived to be successful. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that we're unlocking. It's like treasure chest of things that the engagement data now starts to give us that insight, and our teams are really starting to latch onto it. And one of the key things of being a part of the technical program team here at Rapid7 is you get to play an active role in making sure that this is proprietary data to our CS org, to this tool. And now we're in charge of making sure that the rest of the organization leverages it and has access to it and can really fulfill and make our customer experience way more wholesome. So, yeah.
So you're tracking CSAT, NPS. I don't think you're tracking employee attributes. I guess you need to connect with HR to see any kind of correlations around that. Health score, do you actually track? The more the CSMs or the service managers are actually delivering per the promises that were made based on the package, do we see an increase in health score? Do you see like a mapping around that?
We're getting there. We do have very technical platform usage data that we're trying to cross-reference against our onboarding experience to making sure that our customers are achieving things both technically and behaviorally, and also understanding and adopting our tool. One of our primary objectives at Rapid7 is to close the security achievement gap for any customer that we have, which means taking our tool and either you're learning it yourself or hiring us to deploy it for you and understanding what we're doing and providing the reporting and the outcomes. But yeah, that's kind of what our main goal is, and leveraging all these different aspects and pieces of data to drive towards that and basically make sure that our customers understand why they purchased our software, how it's functioning. We have stuff for underutilization, overutilization, and all of that stuff is bubbling up to the forefront in the last quarter or two and coming together with our engagement model and also other aspects.
Sounds like you're actually tracking a lot of different leading indicators, and you can see whether or not the cadence and the volume of the activities has a correlation to any of these leading indicators. Obviously, we want to encourage activities that correlates back to what the customer is expecting, because we know for a fact that an increase in customer experience does lead to a very beneficial impact on leading indicators. Let's talk about lagging indicators. And what are you tracking there? And did you get different requests from the executive teams versus did you get like different requests for metrics in general, depending on the internal persona?
I'd mostly say that's been defined more so about not achieving the leading indicators as opposed to looking at what's lagging. So folks that aren't using the tool, folks that are getting negative sentiment on their timelines, anyone that's filling out any type of NPS that's not favorable, we have closed loop processes to follow up with them to make sure that their voice is heard and that they can participate in helping to better the tool. So the leading indicators, I think, were strong. Lagging is just sort of not reaching the level of the leading indicators that we need to. It kind of ties back a little bit to renewals and being able to add to the product portfolio as well. So are they adopting properly? Are they deploying the tool in a meaningful manner? We're not yet there. We're not looking at churn rates based off of other things yet.
I was just wondering if like you really do truly close the loop between ensuring that the activities that are part of that service package, if we hold ourselves accountable to deliver them in the right cadence and in the right volume, do we see not only an impact in satisfaction, health scores, maybe even early renewals, if everything goes smoothly, advocacy, adoption, outcomes achieved, but do we also see an impact on the company's bottom line, like gross retention rate and net retention rate and attachment of apps? A lot of times people would look at upsell attachments to a renewals as a leading indicator. Early renewal sometimes is a leading indicator to a higher net retention rate. So CSQLs, customer success qualified leads, CSALs, customer success advocacy leads. Like, do we see those increase when we deliver these activities?
Yeah, and we just started to implement our advocacy program as well in a more refined manner. So we're still waiting to see some results of that, but we do have our customer advocates, and we are tracking that and their presence more heavily against these sentiments, NPS, and just overall satisfaction.
Well, let's go back to who are you serving this data to? Obviously, you started with the CSMs. And then you said, well, other teams also wanted to get exposure to it. So you have a bunch of services team that are outside of the CSM. So can you give me some examples of names of like roles that are consuming this data from the cross-functional teams?
Yeah, I mean, pre-sales, our partner sales initiatives, marketing, all those teams are interested in the data because they want to know who's responding to our surveys. They know who the active contacts are. Pre-sales want to know what the current portfolio is, what the sentiment or the temperature of the account is, so that if they're going to go in and try and renew our renewals and pre-sales and new product sales, we're still hammering out and kind of unifying that experience. And that's what this new success plan and engagement initiative is focused around. Partners, they're tough. We have a mixed CS/partner deployment for our overseas accounts. Well, how do we know like how they're supposed to engage? You can't judge partner engagement versus a CS engagement is completely different. And you engage with partners mostly via email, but the CS engagement is mostly in person. So how do you judge and validate the health of engagement in that regard? And that's an active thing that a challenge we're trying to overcome right now. The way we're getting the data out there, our BI, our data engineering teams are very strong. We have Snowflake, we have Tableau. And for us, we establish different data pillars for our tools at Rapid7. And we say, these are the main data sources, and we are starting to build out our approved data sets. So as the organization becomes hungry for understanding the timeline events, volume, and types, which is basically the source of our engagement model, our CTAs, our playbooks, our onboarding stuff, like our NPS results, our specific survey results, all of those teams are starting to become more actively thirsty or hungry for that information to overlay with product performance and renewal rates and stuff like that. So we're on like the bleeding edge of that here, Rapid7 right now. And our primary mechanism is just pushing files out to S3, just a good old CSV extract for our BI team. And then that just gets picked up and ingested into our data lake.
Let's understand the tech stack. Okay, which tools are feeding Gainsight?
Our Gainsight, we're a hybrid installation with Salesforce. We have Tableau, we have Snowflake. Snowflake is our primary integration with the Tableau data, if that makes sense.
Okay, so you have a data warehouse tool, essentially.
Yeah, and we've basically worked with the BI team and the DE, the data engineering team. So anytime a user or a business director wants to cultivate a data set in Tableau, we can very quickly turn that into a Snowflake view for Gainsight that becomes actionable data and displayable data. And that's been super, super powerful for us in our organization. It makes it more efficient and it makes the data more democratized. And then we just basically reverse engineer that where, hey, we're going to serve you this extract on a daily basis. They ingest it into Tableau, and
Yeah.
now they've got this engagement data. They've got other information that's super accessible, and they don't need a license for it.
Does your CRM solution feeds into Snowflake, your data warehouse, and your CS solution?
Our CS solution, right, sits on top of Salesforce.
Mm-hmm.
Salesforce is our primary source of truth, and Salesforce will also get fed information from Tableau or from Snowflake.
Your CS solution does not connect to the data warehouse. It just connects to Salesforce.
Salesforce and Snowflake, and if need be, S3.
S3 files from other sources,
Yeah, that's just sort of like manual processes.
which is whatever you haven't had the chance yet to put in your data warehouse.
Yeah.
If anybody knows anything, CS Solutions, you got your activities, you got your CTAs, people enter and input data directly. This is actually also a source system.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a target system. So what happens to the data that's being generated here? Does it also feed Snowflake, or does it feed the CRM and then the CRM feeds into the data warehouse?
When we are generating more and more data, we are looking to push it into Salesforce directly whenever it makes sense, if it's that kind of data. Primarily, though, we want to trust our data engineering and BI teams to handle and cultivate and curate the data for us first, and then deliver the organization that certified sort of data set. So if we were to look at opportunity data, yes, there's opportunity data in Salesforce. We have 2 backend systems. So there's a Snowflake view from Tableau that has already been prepared by our data engineering team that has a combination of all the opportunities and renewal data from both systems that's approved that other people can do all their reporting and visualizations off of.
Yeah.
And that will also in turn feed Salesforce and feed us. So it's just making sure good data is great, but a great data ecosystem or ecology is even better.
100%.
It's easier to maintain.
We talked about different teams leveraging the data. Do different people leverage the data that is in Gainsight from different systems that you have in your technology ecosystem? So do they all have access to Gainsight licenses, or do some of them just get it from the CRM or the business intelligence solutions?
So the marketing team really uses us to sort of give them assistance when they're generating any type of reports, primarily for NPS, I'll say that, or any some cross-sell ups things. But if we're speaking about NPS with marketing or supporting the other teams, marketing's not in Gainsight at all. They'll look for us to provide an extract of all the respondents or all the active participants to surveys, and then they'll use that to help cross-reference stuff in their system for future sends or future sales. I'll just say I've been encouraging us to sort of look to more towards automation of our NPS, automation of certain survey items based off of roles and other things. But we're taking our time getting there.
The other group that you mentioned is the pre-sales team.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they have access to the CRM system, but do they actually have access to Tableau and the CS?
They do have access, to my best knowledge, to Tableau. And what we've been doing with Gainsight is that there's the ability to configure reports that would be basic extracts of data, and you can schedule those to be sent to sort of non-users. So you can facilitate a link to the report or an actual Excel spreadsheet. And we've done that for existing members and teams where they want, like on the first of every month, we want a report or an extract of all the engagement for all of our accounts. So they can do an analysis and give their awards and prizes and stuff out on it.
So who gets access to Tableau, to the business intelligence solution?
You just have to request it. I don't think people say no. I mean, data engineers.
So, but the pre-sales is definitely either getting scheduled reports from your CS solution, but they don't have a login. Who gets a login to the CS solution? Is it only the CSMs?
CSMs, technical account managers, their managers and directors, onboarding team. We have our managed services team. And we're expanding support. Our technical support is very interested in partnering with us. We have access, obviously, to case information. We want to trigger different processes to help them facilitate things off of case statuses in Salesforce, so they never have to leave Salesforce, and then our folks never have to leave Gainsight. So we're trying to iron out all those little processes.
Really interesting. A technical support using a customer success solution. You don't hear that every day.
So that's near and dear to me. Even in my previous job, I worked in that role of a technical support escalations manager. It's super critical to understand that if you have an escalated case with a customer and it's about a bug or a feature, that's going to impact their sentiment. That's going to impact their experience. So if you can handle the process where you're providing updates from development on an enhancement request or a bug, the impact of that has been insurmountable with an account. Just the fact that you're able to say, I know about your enhancement request and it's now sitting in a backlog slated for 2 months from now, whatever that is, even being able to provide that amount of information is super critical to a support representative to give them that knowledge of the case and that expertise. And then a customer is like, oh, okay, well, they heard me and this is actually scheduled. That's great. They're working with us. So there's been a lot of chatter about how do you handle like white space or enhancement requests and getting that process hammered out. And this is what we're exploring to sort of help with that. A CTA that's triggered off of a case in a enhancement request status or something like that could be very valuable.
CTAs really stands for calls to action, which means that we're talking about not just business intelligence, creating reports and getting data in and then not doing anything with it. It actually gets into the realm of actionable business intelligence or actionable BI or intelligence. Once you get all that data in and really went with it, like all the activities and the volumes and the cadence, what kind of calls to action have you started generating? Like, what are the best ones that you would recommend anybody that's collecting the activity of TAM, managed services? This is really the video for anybody that has managed services that supports technology. And how can you amplify that using a customer success solution by really creating transparency? And so what can we do with that data? What are like the top 3 or 5 calls to action that managed services and TAMs should definitely have once they have access to this data?
Any service agreement. So if you have obligated hours, a weekly CTA that says, hey, your customer's nearing the end of their contract and you have X number of hours left, that's sort of like your balance CTA, like, or a notification CTA. Technically, if I was going to validate that user story, I would shoot it down and say we could do it in a report. But service agreement CTAs, like SLAs, renewal CTAs, the other ones we have tiered no contact CTAs. So if you have a tier 1 and they're supposed to get a contact every week and they haven't been contacted in a duration that the business says is a concern, we are triggering CTAs that say, hey, you haven't contacted this customer. Now that works at scale, which it can get a little noisy, or it works very well with like your higher tiers, obviously. And we're working on evolving our utilization CTAs. So if there's an overage, so if they've overextended their licenses or resources, we're working on triggering CTAs to notify the right CSM or resource on the account saying, hey, you need to add this to your QBR or you need to add this to your weekly. Underage as well. If we don't see that they're using the tool properly, we've actually triggered CTAs that say, hey, customer hasn't logged in X number of days. Are they okay?
We're going to track the cadence and the volume of these things for your service level agreements and like what is included in the service package for both managed services or technical account managers or maintenance packages. And so SLA, are we meeting our promises at the cadence and the volume? So the SLA would track for both dimensions, cadence and volume. Renewal, no contract or touch point. Do you actually have no contact calls to action? So we know who the stakeholder is.
They know, like, you haven't contacted this account in X number of days. You need to get out and reach out.
What if you don't know who the contact is, like, or the contact left and we don't know who the next contact is?
Then the CSM is going to discuss that with their manager when they see no contact, or they raise that up to a peer, or they can reach out to marketing or back to Salesforce and say, hey, what are these contacts are bogus. So part of our engagement model was supposed to be contact role assignment and guaranteeing that you had a renewal owner, you had a product champion, all of these established at the account, but that sort of flopped a little bit. As we go towards evolving our customer experience and our NPS and our sentiment and adding those dimensions, the Gainsight team has been working with our sentiment folks to say, you really need to start to understand role-based NPS and then how to tackle that with the customer. But that could be a whole other discussion.
100%. So SLA, renewal reminder, no touch point for the higher touch, overage, underage. We got 5 recommended calls to action that anybody with a service agreement any kind of service agreement with customers would want to track the level of activity with customers. And these are the calls to action that just flag out, hey, there's an issue here and this account might need some attention. I don't see sentiment as CTAs. Is that something you experimented with and you're kind of like, yeah, it's okay. It's like too much noise?
Because of the sentiment that's generated, the fact that it's fed to BI and it's part of a greater calculation, there's not much to call out as far as like this account is on fire. We are working on a new a unified escalations process at Rapid7. And part of it is going to be a mechanism to identify accounts that may be at risk for sentiment or any other like technical items or even financial situations, who knows? But yeah, that's definitely a scenario we're working on. Yeah, going forward.
Well, wow. I mean, what a session we had today. This interview was amazing. I learned so much about your approach, how you actually leverage this information. And I think it's kind of unique to see a company really embracing a holistic customer success approach around not just the customer success managers, but anybody that has some sort of a commitment to the customers and doing it in a data-driven manner. Kudos for you for protecting the data, leveraging the data, enrolling everybody else in having that data available to them and getting the right insights so that you can impact the customer experience in the best way possible.
Yeah, well, thank you. And thanks for having me and letting us discuss this. I'm a data nerd at heart and love this stuff. Appreciate you inviting me to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for taking the time. I'll include your LinkedIn information for anybody that wants to connect to talk about your experience, your data approach. I think it's a really cool topic and we don't talk about it enough on my channel. So I want to thank you very much for sharing all of this with me.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, if you like that video, you like this discussion, give it a like, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to push the notification button on so you don't miss any additional discussions about customer success. And of course, if you need help with your data structure, the way you analyze customer data and how to integrate all of that, feel free to reach out to me at CSM Practice. We help a lot of different clients like you to take their data approach around customer success to the next level. And with that, check out our website or DM me on LinkedIn and I'll send you all the information. And with that, I'll see you at the next video.